Good morning, Rabbi Isai. How's everybody doing? Listen, I should have done this earlier, but that raise I gave Gary, it mamish worked. A little money, that's all it is. I doubled the salary from 0 to 0, and that's it. He starts muting everybody at exactly 7:15 on the dot. It's gewaldig. Shkoyach Gary. Lid nishmas imi rusmas Mordechai. And by the famous Dr. Allen. Now, this is not Alan Listhouse, but this is a different Dr. Allen from Canada. I have this chus coming to RBS for the second time in 3 months. The first time in the summer for the birth of a granddaughter, Baruch Hashem, Mazel Tov. The second time for the birth of another granddaughter, Baruch Hashem. And for the bar mitzvah of my oldest grandson, Yitzi Rabinowitz, in Gimel Shtayim. So, Shkoyach, Dr. Allen, Rabinowitz, Makadosh Baruch Hu, continue to shower my family and all of Klal Yisrael with simchas, and may I be zoichet to make aliyah soon. Amen. Boys, I listen to this. This is an incredible sponsorship. It's from a young guy. I don't know who he is. I don't know how old he is, but I'm assuming he's young. Listen to this. Dedicated in the honor of Dr. Aaron Doe Fishman and his entire mishpacha. Every day, whether it's 1 a.m., 4:10 a.m., 6 a.m., or 10 p.m., the Gemara does not leave his side. Being a new son-in-law of Dr. Fishman, together we had the schus to have a backyard Corona beautiful wedding. The wedding made us closer, and being in his house with my wife many times, I was brought into the family like a real son. My father-in-law is a living paradigm of the line in 2020. Again, these fancy words, P-A, not enough. I guess he doesn't chap, Panovich. In 2020, there are no excuses not to learn. You hear this? In 2020, there are no excuses not to learn, especially Daf Yomi. He's a tremendous mechazik to all of us and has true Shemayim and inspiration. And in honor of Ephraim Yehuda ben Alexander Sender and Shifra Yehudis Bas Chana Gittel and all of our grandparents, Shkoyach, wow, young guy. Now, one of these two sponsors, I don't know which one, will say that they're both sponsored the whole day because they thought I was in Eretz Yisrael and the 8th daf is going to start up and there's going to be a second cheer. So we got them good. No, they have credit or we'll give them back, whatever it is. I have a lot of great emails. One of them is really, really good, and I wish I could read it, but he didn't give me reshus to read it. So I'm going to ask him for special reshus. I'm asking Yosef to ask him, please, you have reshus? We have reshus? So I'll read it tomorrow. I don't have it printed out yet. Okay, it was a great email. I got a great laugh out of it, and it was good. It was good stuff. This is by the Bergman family. You know, we all know Yoel Bergman. He's sitting at home with COVID. And yesterday when I was discussing about my really bad Thursday, and my daughter, she left her suitcase with all her, she's what do you call it? She does hair for weddings. So she left all her stuff in a suitcase in an Uber. To make it even worse, she took another Uber and she left her purse in the second one. So it says, your daughter must be related to your father-in-law. If memory serves me correctly, there was a joke years ago. They had a custom of donating a Borsalino to every cab driver in Eretz Yisrael, the Bergmans. Thank you for your amazing share. Oh no, let's do this one here. So we spoke about the other day about the Cheskel bread. So here's a guy, it's a big fan from Miami. I've been wanting to send you an email for a long time since the cycle began. I work full-time in real estate here in Miami, and I also run an organization, Torah Kiruv, called the Lighthouse Torah Project. Gewaldik. He does Kiruv, and he has a bunch of stuff on Facebook and on Zoom. I ran into your shiurim online through YouTube sometime middle of the Mesechtes Brachas. And although we have our own resident Daf Yomi teacher in our Lighthouse Torah Project who gives class, I'm guilty to say that I make an effort to listen to your shiurim constantly, especially when I miss them in person, which has turned out to be quite often due to my schedule. I've pretty much rolled with you throughout Eruvin. I want to personally thank you for making this shiurim informational and as fun as possible. I give my own shiurim online and have many followers on social media, and I was blown away by Daf 81 account, Ezekiel bread origin. And that was a game changer. I had to put that info out to the world. Mamish, gewaldige chidush, a game changer Torah, which will impact many lives. So anyways, I went on to see what he was talking about. He had this whole thing on Facebook, 10 minutes. He went through the sugya to explain to everybody based on the shir that people are buying this Ezekiel bread, and he himself listen, it's a pasuk in the Torah, so it must be great. And we learned that it's actually a terrible bread. It was just HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to see what it tasted like. what suffering Klal Yisrael is going to go through. Anyways, we don't regret the Mashiach, rebuild Beis Hamikdash. Amen. Here's a clip I put on my Facebook account. I would like to donate $360 to the Siyum and marry my mother, Dvar Fega Bas Shmooze, Vracha, coming up soon. Also, this is very important. I'm going to read through this really quick. I know we're running out of time here. It's a shorter daf. Bez Hashem, you are back and home. So this is from Michal David Tzok from Oregon. Listen to this. This is Givaldik, the chesed of our Chabura. I'm writing for two reasons. One, to check in and say how much I'm enjoying the daily shiur. I'm glad you're still keeping good pace, even on Amud Beis. But I can't keep a good pace on this email because we're running out of time. Amazing. We're up to 300 days for the year, and now I'm up to 81 days. Unbelievable. In other words, he started in the beginning of Eruvin. You have really made Eruvin understandable, and this is supposed to be one of the hardest mesechtas. I have no worries about the rest of Shas. I also appreciate the YouTube version staying on a bit after Shir. You finish, so I can hear some of the schmoozing. That's why we leave it on a little bit. People complain that we turn it off, and get to know. By the way, people don't think that the Shir is 50 minutes. There's at least 5 minutes of stuff at the end and 5 minutes in the beginning. So you got 40 minutes of Shir. I look forward to more and more dapet. The other reason, I'm hoping through you to reach out to the MDY Chevra. This week, my Ritzua Shel Yad had snapped in half. Sadly, the only Yiddish store in the region was lost in a fire over the summer. I need help finding some place to order a Shel Yad Ritzua to replace mine. Do any of the great MDY family know whom I can order replacement in quality kosher? Cost a fortune. Oregon is on the west coast of the U.S., about 3 hours south of Seattle. So we have a chaver in Oregon, Gevaldik. Health reasons prevent me traveling. It's strange not to be able to wrap your tefillin without a ritzua. He says, Yeshikoyach, if you get this before Shabbos, a good Shabbos, a good Voch, Michal David. So what happened was, we put it on the chat, within 25 seconds, 10 people called up Noam Fix, and they had this thing organized. That's what I understand. So Yeshikoyach to all those Goyim Le Chesed, who do Chesed with others all around the world. Another great. And then, on Friday, I learned of somebody else who donated $10,000 to somebody in the Shir who found out that somebody is not doing so well, Parnasa-wise. Chesed after Chesed, unreal. Zok Tehilim Gemara. Now, Rabbi Yisai, I had a bunch of people complain, and they said, so I decided we're going to go back. Let's go back to the sugya of the kav and the eggs. So it goes like this. Rabbi Yochanan says, now I'm messing with you guys, don't worry about it. We're on to the next sugya. Okay, great. But let's take it back a little bit to Omer of Nachman, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. We did go all the way almost to the bottom. We'll just take it back a few lines to get a little bit familiar again with the sugya. Omer of Nachman, lezeh b'shilshul ulezeh b'zrika mai. So what happens if you have an upper chutzner and a lower chutzner? This guy has to lower down. Shilshul is to lower down some sort of rope in order to get to the mound, and this guy has to throw it. So it doesn't come easy to any one of them. They're equally hard to come by. So who rules over the mound? So we have a machlokes, and this is the machlokes we're going to be discussing today, the whole sugya today. Amar Rav, and the Gemara is going to ask questions on Rav and questions on Shmuel. Amar Rav, shneyen asurim. They're equal. And what happens is, when you are equal, if both of you rule over a chutzner with the same power, then the chutzner becomes also to you. So since this, whatever this is, this amud, this pole, this mound, whatever it is equally difficult to get to reach to, you have to either lower a rope to it or you have to throw something, but you can't just go over to it and grab something. So they both rule over it equally. Rule over it equally makes it asur for both of them. That's what Rav says. Rav understands that at the end of the day, it's easier to lower something down, to lower a rope, than to throw it and make sure it lands exactly. Not everybody has that kind of aim. Yet, they're difficult. One is a 95-degree difficulty, one is 100, but it doesn't matter. They're both in the category of difficult. No, it's easier. Since it's easier, so the one that only has a 95 degree of difficulty, he wins. he rules over this pole. And he goes through saying, if one is a little easier than the other, okay, so this is where we got to yesterday. If you have a slighter degree of difficulty, you lose. The guy that's a little easier, he wins. Great. Says the Gemara Tnan. We learned in our Mishnah 4 lines from the bottom. You have an upper level and a lower level. And as you remember, we discussed this. Do I have a property like that? I don't have a property. You figured out, yes, I do. In Cleveland, you have these outer porches. Oh, I should have printed a picture of that building. Gorgeous building, mamish, on the water. So here's your mirpesis. You have the upper level, the lower level. And they both forgot to make an area between each other. Anything that's higher up, 10 tfachim, la mirpesis. It goes to the balcony guy. Anything lower than 10 goes to the guy in the bottom. That's who rules over the high things and the lower things. So the Gemara thought, this is the picture we had the other day. Here's the upper level, here's the lower level. And I said the mistake now also, it's like my building in Cleveland. But it's not. If you think a second, it's not. Because look over here, how do they get out over here? Or maybe it is. Yeah, you know what? This is a better picture for the Gemara. Because this is the Havamina. Here's the upper level, and they have to get down with stairs to this balcony. The balcony doesn't lead directly into their apartment, into their house. They still have to use stairs. And these guys have to use a ladder and a stair as well. So this is an in-between balcony. That's what the Gemara thought. Mirpeses is referring to the guys that live on the second floor. And why is it called a balcony if they live on the second floor? Because the way to get to the second floor is to first climb up onto the mirpeses, onto the balcony, and from there they go up into their apartment. The bottom line is, ask the Gemara, this would be a question on Rav. Why? Because look, these guys have to lower things down to get here, to this beam. These guys have to throw it up. And what does it say here? Alma kol lezebishilshul, lezebizrika. Here we have this exact case that we're arguing about. The guys on the top, in order to use this beam, have to lower something down. The guys in the bottom have to throw up. And what do? We give it to the guys in the upper level. That's exactly what Shmooze said. That since it's easier to lower something down than to throw something up, you give it to the upper level. So that's a big problem with Rav. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna. Like Rav Huna says, no, it's like we thought in Cleveland. Here are the doors directly into the mirpeset. The reason why the upper guys win is not because they lower stuff down, is because they're right there. What is that called? Pesach. That's what we had yesterday, the day before, right before where we started. If one guy has a Pesach, he has an opening directly there, he doesn't have to, there's no degree of difficulty at all. He opens up his doors right there on the balcony. So obviously he's going to win, he's going to beat out the guy that has to throw something. He's right there, he's a Pesach. Okay. So what's with the last part of the Mishnah? Or afterwards in the Mishnah? If it's less than 10 tfachim, lechatzer. It goes to the guys, anything less than 10 tfachim goes to the lower level. Amai, lezebe pesachu. At the end of the day, they both have access to it. Why should we give it to the guy that's on the lower level? Says the Gemara, my lechatzer, af lechatzer. Not only to the chatzer. It means even the chatzer guys have control over that beam. The guys on top also have control. So what's halacha when two people have equal control on something? It's also for both of them. Ushneim asur. Hachanami mistabra. And now this makes a lot of sense. Even forget about answering Rav and explain. Even Shmuel is going to have to explain it like this. Midiktani Seifa, it says later on, B'medvar mamurim b'smucha. Remember we had this pole, this mound of dirt, the pole, and we said, the only time the upper guys have access to the pole is if the pole and the mound of dirt are close to the balcony. But if they're further away from the balcony, 4 tfachim away, they don't have access to it. If it's further away from the merpeses, so the merpeses doesn't have access, that's the case that we're trying to get to, then it goes to the chatzar. Ma'ila chatzar, what does it mean that the chatzar gets it? If only the yard, the bottom guys, get usage of the pole and the mound of dirt, why are they any better than the upper guys? Both of them, explains Rashi, could get to the mound the same exact way. How did the guys on the bottom get to the mound? Only by throwing. So the guys on top could also throw. Well, it's actually easier probably to throw from on top to make it land somewhere, where to throw from the bottom and make sure you land on top of a mound. But the point is they both could throw. If they both could throw, Zeb is Rika, V'Zeb is Rika, that's a case we had. Both of them are also. Ella, my lechatzer, af lechatzer. So therefore we have to explain the word. Chatzer means including the chatzer, not only the chatzer. It goes to the chatzer, it goes to the upper level. They both have access to it. Ushneim asurim. Therefore they're both asur. Hachanami. So therefore, in the case before that, my lechatzer, af lechatzer, ushneim asurim, shma mina. So now everything's consistent in the Mishnah. Lechatzer doesn't mean only the guys in the bottom have access. It means also the guys in the bottom have access, and the guys on top have access, because anytime you're equal in the way you access that beam, then it becomes asur. Both of them are asur. Zog the Gemara, it's awfully quiet. What's going on here? Noam, Psikasha, Teretz, something. Look in Tosis Dibra Maskut Dechi Chatzra, and when we get there, just jump in and out.
I can ask you a kasha, I just don't want to interrupt. Why don't we say it opposite?
It's not, I feel like I'm talking to myself. You could say hello also. Yeah, in Chicago, it's freezing cold.
The other way around. Why don't we say that the race says Aflam or Pesed and the Sefer is only Lachatzer?
Oh, that's a murdik kasha. I have no idea. Okay, weiter. Geschmack. Thank you. I didn't even hear his kasha so much. What?
We could talk about the weather instead if you prefer.
I totally prefer that, but I like the Shmooze.
He's been fielding calls from Faggy, wondering where you are.
Oy. Let's not talk about that. Yeah. It was a Gewaldige Shabbos, Gewaldig. Everything's good. I needed a little bit of sleep. I slept.
You Erev Shabbos, Ellie.
What happened?
I went up to say hello to you Erev Shabbos.
You and some other people also. You're not the first person to tell me that. Okay, we'll Shmooze. Not on everybody else's cheshbon. Tnan. Chulias habor v'hasela. So we learned in the Mishnah, you have a mound of dirt, the embankment of a pit. You make a pit. Here's the picture, just like we had a second ago. Where did you get this? You see there's a hole in the center, but the dirt comes from the hole that you dug. So it's called the chulias habor v'hasela, or you have just a large stone there. Shein givay nasara. They are 10 tfachim tall. Lamir peses. It goes to the balcony. It's 10 tfachim tall to the balcony. Pachas mikan lechotzer. So now the problem is, what do you have? You have a case of throwing. You have to throw it to get on top of the mound, and you have to lower it to get to the mound if you're on the second floor. Who does it go to? It goes to the second floor. So that's exactly what Shmooze says. That's a problem with the Rav. Omer Rav Huna lo'oison hadare b'amir peseh. So same exact answer that we said before. They're not throwing down. They're right here. They have access. So it's not considered shilshul. It's not considered lowering it down. It's considered pesach. It's considered an opening, and that's why they get it. Teinach. That's what we had before. Teinach sela. Okay, so that you explained sela, that it has a nice top to it. It's a stone. What does a stone look like? You could walk on top of a stone. Bar ma'ikle, but the bar is a pit. It actually doesn't have access to the upper floor because there's a bottomless pit. or there's a bottom to the pit. So to get to the bottom, the upper guy has very little access to it, just as much access as the guy that lives in the bottom. It's not like he comes out and puts his thing down right over here. It's going to fall into the pit, into the bottom of it. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Yitzchak b'Rei Rav Yehuda, Hacha bebar meleya mayim askinon. In fact, he has access right to the top because here's the mound, and there's water right there, right next to him. He just comes off the porch, puts his pail into this beautiful blue water, and he draws water. So he's right there. Says the Gemara, that's very nice. But what happens when you draw water? You draw water on Shabbos, and then you have to do the dishes, and you draw more water, and before you know it, the level of the water goes down. So yes, you started when it's right there with your balcony, but eventually it's going to go down. What are you going to do then? It doesn't say anywhere, oh, be careful, the water's going to go down, and it's only when the water's up. There's no mention of any halachas. You have a mound, you could use it. You want to tell me it's a hechatim, it's a little bit of a doichak, it's full of water, but typically water goes down. So shouldn't we say something about it? Shouldn't you be careful? Something? Voch says the Gemara, big chiddush. Well, when Shabbos started, it was okay because it was a top level. So even though it goes down in the level, you could still use it. That's a great chiddush. That's an amazing chiddush. It fits in with a lot of different concepts that we had in the Masechta, that you start Shabbos with a mechitza, with an eruv, even though the eruv was eaten. Okay, so maybe it's within that realm. Says the Gemara, but Adarabah, it doesn't make any sense what you're saying. But you agree that if the level of water is lower, it's no good. But you want to say because you started out at a high level, so even though right now it's at a lower level, it's okay. But if it started at a lower level, it's usher. So shouldn't it go in reverse? So you should always say it's usher, just in case it goes to the lower level where it will eventually go. Why are you telling me it's mutter? Taisus goes into here. There's a very nice Taisus that says, this is considered something that's going to be removed on Shabbos. At the end of the day, you take water on Shabbos. You need water on Shabbos. It's asal l'fanoisai. Now, things that are asal l'fanoisai, Taisus says, like we had the case of a ditch that you filled it up with dirt, and the Gemara says mufurish, if it's asal l'fanoisai, you're going to remove things from it. It's not mevatel. It's not considered as if it's full. So he goes into the nafkamina over here. So he says like this: over here it's different. Over here you just want to make it high up. You're not trying to make a mechitza. So since on the one hand you're not going to remove it, it's memayit. On the other hand, even though you go, okay, fine. Ayin taisvus. Says the Gemara. Elo amar Abaye hacha bebar milei peris askin. Ooh, wow. We're not talking about water. It's full of fruit. Actually, I have a picture of it. Yeah, a little schwach, hard to see. I'm jumping back. The eyes of other guys, their pictures are not very sophisticated, but for showing during a shear, it's easier because they're just very simple. Over here, there's a lot going on, and the pears are over here in the corner, if you could see. Nice oranges in the mound. Okay, so what if there's pears? V'chasri. But at the end of the day, you're going to start eating oranges, you're going to give to your guest, and before you know it, the level goes down. And you want to put your stuff on top of the oranges. You're going to start using it as like a shelf. Says the Gemara, no, here's the trick. It's full of fruit that you can't touch on Shabbos. Why? B'tivla. You never took Trumas HaMaisros, so even a Kohen cannot eat it. It became Tevel. It is Tevel. And therefore, it becomes Muktzah. Muktzah on Shabbos. So, what's the problem? I have a shelf made out of fruit. You might want to eat some, you can't eat it. And therefore, the shelf is there for the remainder of Shabbos. Dekanami, and it's been doing in the words, Diktani, Dumya de Sela. We give you two cases, Bar and Sela. Sela is Muktzah, is there to stay for Shabbos, nobody's moving it. So too, this pit is Muktzah, There to stay for Shabbos, Shema Mino. As the Gemara, but it's very interesting. Both cases, the water is full to the top, the fruit are full to the top. So they're identical cases. Why say two cases? If you're telling me a sela, it's a nice round rock, and you tell me a bar, it goes real deep down into the ground, great. But you tell me it's a bar that's full to the top, and it's not just a bar, it's a chulia, it's a mound of dirt, and the mound of dirt is full all the way to the top with fruit. So then what's the difference between a mound made out of fruit and a mound made out of stone? They're the same. So the Gemara, it's tzricha. The Yashmin and Sela, this is tzrichusa. I need both cases. The lekha migzar. Nothing can happen with a stone. Avabar, ligzar, zim the malya peres mitukanim. Look, you're telling me a very specific case. It's full of fruit that you never took trumas and maisrus. Okay, that's a very far-fetched case. But what happens? Shouldn't you make that case also? Because most of the time people use it for fruit that's edible, that have trumas and maisrus. Maybe people are going to make mistakes. Maybe it should be geyser. No, we're not geyser. Tzricha. Okay, next. We're still trying to get to Rav and Shmuel, see if there's any holes in their shita. Toshma, anshe chotzer v'anshe aliyah, sheshachachu v'lo yervu. So this is the brisa, our Mishnah, but in a brisa. You have people that live on the upper floor, and people that live on the ground level, and then you make an eruv with each other. Anshe chotzer mishtamshim ba'asor atachtoinim. The people that live on the lower level, they use any kind of beam, any kind of stone that's within 10 tefachim. And the guys that live on the top, they use whatever is above 10 tefachim. Keitzad. What's the case? Ziz yoytzim min hakaisel. You have a shelf that comes out of the wall. Here's a nice, simple picture. You have a shelf that comes out of the wall. If it's down below this guy right over here, it belongs to the chatzar. If the shelf is the upper one, la'aliyah goes to the second floor. Ask the Gemara, habeini beini asur, the middle guy. So the Gemara understood it's a very tall wall, like a normal house. The guy who lives on top floor is 8 feet up in the ground, in the air. Let's say minimum 9 feet, 10 feet, wherever you live. So you have 10 tefachim within your window and 10 tefachim from the ground. But there's a whole area that's nishtahin and nishtaher. It's not 10 tefachim, it's above 10 tefachim and way below 10 tefachim. It's the middle ground, right over here, this shelf. Now what? In order to go from the window to the middle shelf, shilshul, you have to lower something down to it. And in order to get to it from the bottom, you have to throw something up. No, that's our case. Lezeb is shilshul, ubezeb is rika. What's the halacha? The Brisa says, asr to both of them. And that goes according to Rav. Rav is the one that says both of them are asr. Shmuel would say that it goes to the upper guy. He's shilshul, he's a little bit easier than this rika. So that's a great raya to Rav. Omar Rav Nachman, this wall is 19. In other words, there's no in-between area. It's either within 10 of the upper or 10 of the lower, but nothing in between. And in Echanami, if you go 9.5 exactly, that we know the halacha. If it's easy, if it's just as easy for the top and the bottom, then it's lezel shnei masurim. Fine. So over here we're talking about tisha asar skinon. V'ziz yoytze mimenu, and there's a shelf. L'madam asara. If it's below the 10, then it's the lower guy, he's right there. It's like he doesn't have to throw it. If he doesn't have to throw it, it's called Pesach. He just has an opening as a door, opens right up to the shelf. And the upper guy, he has to lower. But if it's above 10, it's the exact opposite. To the upper guy, it's as if he has a door that goes right to it. And the bottom guy has to throw. So now we are turning to Daf Peidalid Amud Beis. In memory of my mother, Shendel Bat Aaron Hirsch and Bracha, by your son, Dr. Allen, different Allen, List House. Sponsored by the Austin and Tobias grandchildren, Lilu Nishmas, our Bubby Zissel Bas Chaim, who's nifter at the age of 98, Gimel Mar Cheshvan. Toshma. How about this as a raya? Now, We are very familiar with this. This is one of the best cases in the entire Masechta, for me at least. Geschmack case. A guy lives on the water in Miami somewhere, and he wants to draw water. Imagine those days. There's no running water. You had to get water. And we learned extensively about this in the Masechta. And in fact, we're going to learn, the Mishnah is coming up just in a few days, Daf Pei Zayin. So we learn it well now, it will be easy to run through it there. Shtei gzus terois zu lemal mazu. So there's two balconies above the water. And they want to draw water. Now, your balcony is Rosh Hashanah. The water below you is a Carmelis. So they made a special kula. Kali kilu b'mayim. They made a special kula when it comes to water. And they said as follows. You could cut out in your porch a 4x4 area. That's like a rishus by itself. Build walls going downwards. But the walls don't have to be very long. We extend the walls halachically, good asik mechitza, good achis, I should say, sorry, good achis mechitza. The walls go down, down, down. They could go down 100 feet. And they hit the water. And memela, the water becomes like your rishus or rishus hayachid, and I could draw water. Now, these two balconies are not one above the other. They're offset to the side within 4 tfachim. Here's the picture. Two balconies, and here they made a little chute out of wood, like a laundry chute kind of thing you have in America sometimes. And here's the pail. There's beautiful water with a reflection. They did a fantastic job here. Gewaldig. Now, these two guys, Rashi explains, as the Gemara is going to explain later on, that this guy, the lower guy, has permission to use this. They built it as a partnership. So he has permission. Now, if the lower guy wants to use his chute, his halachic chute, I mean, he could go straight down into the water. During the weekday, he probably just draws water directly. But because this guy has halachic heter to draw water and he doesn't, so he takes a pail, throws it, mamish like basketball, into the hoop. The pail comes down. So what is this called? Zeb Zrika. He's not only Zrika, he's also Shilshul. He has to first throw it and then draw it. And then this guy is Bishilshul. He lowers down the pail. If, like in this case, this guy made his own mechitzos asu. He made mechitzos, and this guy didn't make mechitzos. Shteyen asurois ad shiya arvu. So this is a very big kasha on Shmuel. This is perfect with Rav. Rav says, if they both have a problem, now you're going to say, well, he's much harder because he has to do Zrika. But no, Rashi says, they're both Zrika. At the end of the day, they're both Zrika. Yeah, the guy in the bottom also has to do, they're both Shilshul. The guy in the bottom also has to do Zrika. But they're kind of even. And it says that it's Asr. Asr on both of them. You didn't understand Pshat. Here, now I'm going to go to Kol HaLashon's picture, mix it up a little bit. The guy on the bottom porch, he has access, easy access to get to the porch on top. He has a ladder. So Mamela, when he draws water, he's equal to the guy on the top. The fact that he has to climb a ladder to get there, that's nothing. The guy on top also has to climb a staircase to get to his house. But when they're drawing water, they're both equal. They're both shilshul. Abaye Omar. And if you only learn Pshat in this Abaye, this could die the whole shir. Because when I first read it, I learned wrong Pshat until I saw Rashi. Abaye Omar going to kaimin betoich asora dehadodi. These two porches, this is not a good picture. Let's use this one. They're within 10 tefachim of each other. So if you just read it and you don't have time for Rashi, so you would say, they're within 10 tefachim, so they're like one rishus. It's one. No. It's a very, very different pshat. Abaye says that when you have 3 rishuyos, like in this case, 2 porches plus water equals 3. If the 2 rishuyos are within 10 tefachim of each other, then they get to share the 3rd rishus. That's what Abaye says. You have to say pshat like that because of the Gemara that's coming up. So again, Abaye says a tremendous chiddush. When you have two rishuyos that are within 10 tefachim of each other, and there's a third rishus called water or called something else, we'll see soon, called a roof, whatever it is, that rishus becomes owned by both of the people because they are within 10 tefachim of each other. Now, if that's the case, then why in the world does it say that the shoot is on the top one? The shoot on the top one would be mashma that we're talking about a problem of throwing and lowering. If the whole point is that the two rishis are next to each other, so talk about that the shoot is on the bottom one. What's the difference? The two rishis are next to each other. They get to share the water equally. Oh. So the Gemara answers that question. Certainly, if you made the shoot on the bottom one, they're both asur. Why? Because both of them become shilshul, lowering the rope. It's a bigger chiddush, in other words, to say that the shoot was on the top one. I would think, at the end of the day, what you guys were thinking to yourselves. But the bottom line is, the guy on the bottom porch, the bottom balcony, he has to overcome a lot more difficulty in order to draw water. He has to throw and then draw. You should give it to the guy that's easier, like Shmooze said, the upper guy. He says, here's another halacha, nothing to do with hard and easy. It has to do with, since you're both together, you're both close to each other, then you get to share the third rishus. And now the Gemara says, a bam raya. Kiha. Kiha da Omer Rav Nachman Omer Shmuel, Gag hasamuch l'shus harabim. Okay, so here, there's a few pictures here. They're very different than each other, but this one is very simple again, this Oiz V'Hadar one. Here's the Rishus Harabim. This right over here is a rooftop. Now, if you look at the Kol HaLashon for a second, just to give a little bit of a frame of reference, here's the rooftop, and here's your chutzner. So you got a lot of chutzner all the way around, but the side next to Rishus Harabim, no chutzner at all. The chutzner is behind. Okay, now let's go back to this one for a second. You have this little guy called a Merpeses. According to the Oiz V'Hadar, it's over here, very simple. This is like your attic on top of the roof, like a rooftop room, let's call it. And this is very important. According to Rashi, the distance between the Rishus Harabim and the roof is 10 tefachim, more than 10 tefachim. According to Taisus, it's lower. But we go with Rashi, so there's more than 10 tefachim here. If you want to be able to use this roof, you have to have a sulam kavua. You have to have a ladder right over here that's permanent, doesn't move. By you putting a ladder, by you placing a ladder over here, you're showing that you have nothing. You're showing that you have access to this roof. It's your roof, and you're grabbing it from the Rishus Harabim. You don't allow the Rishus Harabim. In other words, you're not sharing with the Rishus Harabim. You have a staircase there. You have an elevator that goes to your rooftop. What are you saying? You're saying, I invested money, I have a nice ladder, because it's my rooftop. It's not the Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara, so let's see inside. Gaga samach l'Rishus Harabim. You have a rooftop, by, I don't know if you were there, by Simcha Sussman's wedding, we were in a hall. I'm trying to think where you have these places, like I'm sure in Eretz Yisrael you have a bunch of these places, not so common in America, but you walk on the sidewalk and you're looking down at somebody's rooftop. You're right there by the rooftop. You can just put your package on his roof. So, Gaga Samach L'Rishus Harabim, Tzorach Sulam Kavua Lahatiroi. You remember talking about Noam? Like that hall that we're in, it was like right by, when we were going to our car, by the sidewalk, you look down, you're right there you saw the hall. It was below us. Tzorach Sulam Kavua Lahatiroi. Says the Gemara, Sulam Kavua in, Sulam Arai Loi. My timer. So what's the connection to Abaya? La mishum de kivan de betoich asar de hadodi kaimi asun hadodi. So Gemara wants to understand that the Rishus Harabim and this Merpeset are both close to this Gag. So you have three Rishuyas here. Gag, Mirpeset, Rosh Hashanah. And since the Rosh Hashanah is very close to the Mirpeset, and the Gag is close to the Mirpeset, so they both grab the Mirpeset. They're both there. Says the Gemara. So that's this idea that when you have two Rishuyos next to each other, it's very interesting. Because who gave Rishus to the guys from the Rosh Hashanah to even use this? It's private property. So they talk about it. They say, well, even private property, if people walk through there, they make their own pathway. They're kind of the path by, I don't know, stealing, but they're kind of eventually. So over here also. And we see this idea here. So we had this many times, I don't know, many times, like 2-3 times, right in the Masechta, where Rabbi Mekatvan Olav, you have a little beam, it had to be like 9 tefachim exactly, and then people that have a load on their shoulder, they turn around and they kind of undo their load on this beam. So people from Rosh Hashanah could do it, and the people from Rosh Hashanah. We're talking about something slightly different. The same idea, but different. Over here, it's 10 tefachim tall. So over here, it's not the right height to help your knapsack on your back. But what it is good, says the Gemara, is to take off your hat. It's a nice sunny day. It's right by the bus stop. So what do? You take your hat off, you put it down. You take your little bag from the makol, you put it down. Easier things, the lighter things. It's not to adjust the load, but rather, this is what the people in Rosh Hashanah like to do. It's a hot day, they put down their hat. And then they go weiter. So in Mela, that's why there was a grab, there was a Rosh Hashanah. Not because the Rosh Hashanah is within 10 tefachim of this gag, but rather because people are using the gag and it became theirs automatically. That's why they made it usur, and only if you put a ladder there do you show no, you're not giving into it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Shkoyach. Shkoyach. When are we changing the clocks in America? Are you serious? Tonight? After the clock change. Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is the one time New York and Chicago are the exact same time, the next few minutes, for an hour.
Why is that? Chicago's also changing their time.
New York and Chicago are both 1 o'clock. I was going to be both 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Why is that? Chicago doesn't change their time?
Chicago doesn't change it for another hour. New York just...
Oh. I see.
The first few minutes. What are you doing in Chicago?
Well, what?
You missed Friday shift.
You weren't here last night either. I got a late start also. I didn't know Friday I didn't do yet. You gotta make up the...
You weren't there?
You gotta make it up.
It's just a background. The Mate is just a background. Don't worry about it. Just a background.
No, I did Thursday afternoon share. I did Friday share Thursday, and then last night share.
It's in the background.
So, what are you doing in Chicago?
I missed my flight. The last time I missed my flight was 15-20 years ago. It's not my style to miss flights. I'll blame it on the shear. I'm blaming it on the shear. I finished shear at about 3 o'clock. My flight was 6:50. And I didn't pack. I didn't have time to pack because I didn't have time to prepare the shear because it was 10 hours earlier than usual. So I started packing and then I had to fill out all the forms. The forms took me 45 minutes. They don't allow you to fill out the forms the day before. It has to be the day of. So I started filling out the form. I thought I'll fill it out in 5 minutes. I couldn't find them. I could do this, that, 45 minutes. I got to the airport an hour and 10 minutes before my flight, and they refused to allow me on. I didn't check in before. I didn't do it. Whatever. It was messed up. I messed myself up.
Why are you just blaming your wife? It's so much easier.
Why what?
Your wife sent you shopping and then sent you the story. It's wife's fault. Makes life so much easier.
She's not happy. She's really not happy.
No, she also blamed this year. Don't worry about
It was the first time in almost 7 years that I didn't spend Shabbos. Well, she left once for like a simcha like this year, but I was always back for Shabbos. I never missed Shabbos in Israel. Besides one time all the way in the beginning. Dr. Allen, Yishkoyach for the sponsorship. Yishkoyach.
I'm doing this next week. I'm flying Motzei Shabbos to Thursday. Next week.
Which flight are you taking home?
Thing El Al to New York. Then I have 2 vouchers, 2 half tickets. I'm flying in Delta back.
From New York.
Yeah, El Al to Florida, Miami, and then New York. Sorry, Delta. New York to Tel Aviv.
Wow.
Are you coming to Chicago?
Yoel, it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. I just said that I had a feeling I was going to miss the flight because I promised I'm going to visit Yoel. And of course, I pushed it off to after this year, but I couldn't go visit him. So on the way to the airport, I said, what if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me, because I told him I'm going to go visit him, he's going to cancel my flight. I got there, sir, forget, don't even ask. They said, don't even try to fight with us. We're not letting you on. I know it's an hour and 10 minutes before the flight. You're not coming on. I said, the day that I had today, it makes all the sense in the world that I missed my flight. I'm not even going to ask. I turned around, went home.
Are you coming to Chicago?
Who? Mati? No, Mati's not coming to Chicago. Oh, you are? Maybe you'll be out of Corona then.
Yeah,